Marvel Rivals has dozens of characters, each with their own unique abilities and mechanics, and we're going to be breaking down every single Marvel Rivals hero, which is the best to climb to high elo with. Some quick housekeeping rules, something that I want to bring up front in the beginning here would be, this is my list, so please go easy. And also this list is going to be aimed at what heroes are going to give me the highest likelihood of cracking into eternity specifically. Not to go pro, not to hit platinum, but what characters are going to help me hit eternity? What are going to be the easiest heroes in order to climb to hit eternity? Now, hitting eternity is not going to be exactly easy, and some of these heroes, their strengths and weaknesses are going to change, and the metas shift even from tier to tier as you get higher up through elo, so there is that nuance there. And of course, it's team dependent, and if you solo queue and all of that fun stuff, so there's a ton of nuance here. However, if you become incredibly familiar with a given hero, what is the likelihood that they're going to be able to aid you the best on your way to eternity? Some of these heroes are harder to use, but they're going to be easier to hit eternity with, if that makes sense. A character like Magik, you might need to know a few more combos than some other heroes, but she might give you a better chance to climb to eternity. And the tiers are structured, red being the worst, with green being the best. Let's get into it. And let's go ahead and jump right into the bottom tier here with Moontime. We're going to be starting with the duelists. Now, don't get me wrong, you can climb to eternity with every single one of these heroes, and I mean it, from bronze to eternity. You can solo queue there, but what heroes, in my opinion, and based off of stats like win rates, pick rates, how do they work on certain compositions? What does that look like? Moon Knight's going to be at the bottom of our list. He has the third lowest win rate across all heroes in the game in high elo at the moment. Yes, he's going to be able to farm all kinds of ult charge. He's going to be able to get opponents off of the cart for you in overtime. He's fantastic for dealing with groups, but he's just not going to be able to get the job done in 1v1 scenarios, and your ability to solo carry with Moon Knight is incredibly weak. That's why he's in the bottom. Low pick rate in high elo, which means people who generally pick him for a very niche case, and even during that unique scenario, he's also not performing with only a 45% win rate. Let's go ahead and move on to Black Widow here. Whoa, what a shocker here. She's at the absolute bottom. She's never been good. She's never been strong. Yes, you can carry with Black Widow. You can pop off with shots. Yes, you can receive damage boost, but every other hero in the game can receive a damage boost as well. She's just not going to deliver like a lot, or really any other hero in the game can deliver. This isn't exactly like an attack on Black Widow. I like playing Black Widow, but I don't know what they need to do with this character other than giving her one-shot potential, which would make her busted. Again, she's going to give you no utility. We're taking out Groot's walls, chipping down shields, chipping down Rocket's ultimate. She's super weak, super bad. Her fire rate is just incredibly low. So if an enemy is literally one shot, this is something else that Black Widow is incredibly weak to, and this is something that you don't really see until you probably get into Diamond or maybe Grandmaster or even Celestial. At that point, when your fire rate is so low, the opportunity cost to shoot another shot at someone who's quite literally at like 2 HP or 3 HP or something like that, the opportunity cost is so incredibly high for you to shoot a high power bullet towards someone like that, and if you miss, even more so, the opportunity cost goes up exponentially. And when you multiply that out over the course of a game, it's just too much. Black Widow's at the bottom. Okay, next here might be a controversial one, but I'm actually going to put the Punisher here in the alt feeder category. Get this, he's got a 10% pick rate, and he has the second worst win rate in high elo at the moment. Yes, he's fantastic for applying aggro, for applying pressure consistently. He's the best when it comes to that. Chipping down Groot's walls, chipping down a Doctor Strange shield, shooting at an Emma Frost, the Thing. He can shoot any flyer. If you have excellent tracking or really even just average tracking, there's a lot of value to be had with the Punisher. But now with season 3, when it takes even longer to farm your ultimate, it makes it incredibly difficult to get value consistently with this hero. And here's one of the biggest knockbacks for Punisher in general. His consistent damage is okay. There's nothing wrong with the consistent damage piece. What he lacks though is that burst damage, other than a shotgun up front, which is fantastic for dealing with dive characters and even tanks if they get too close. But if you want to solo carry and grind your way up to eternity, you're going to have an incredibly hard time with this hero in particular. Again, for the burst damage and the he's one-shot aspect, you're going to need to be able to take care of those one-shot characters yourself if you want to solo carry and you want to make it up to eternity. And again, with this character, I'm not saying you can't climb up to eternity with him. It's just incredibly hard to consistently get those games when you need that burst damage to take someone out of the game rather than chip their HP down. We're seeing a little bit more Squirrel Girl use this season, so I do like seeing that. That's a welcome change, but she's still really bad. She has barely a 47% win rate. She's got over a 10% pick rate. Statistically speaking, she should be in the bottom tier. The reason why I placed her up here is because she does have that burst damage. Yes, it is harder to hit those flying heroes, but currently in the meta that we're seeing, especially in the upper tiers, we're not seeing as many flyers this season as we were in season 2.5. She's great for applying consistent damage to any tank in the game, and that is incredibly understated, probably up until Diamond or Grandmaster. And at that point, when you have strategists that have a little bit more wherewithal and understand kind of what your overall game plan is, that's when you can start to take a little bit more off angles with a Squirrel Girl. That's when you can stay on high ground. And if you are not answered consistently, you can provide a lot of value for your team, although it is niche. If there is a flyer who is playing consistently well, like an Iron Man, like a Storm, it's going to be really hard to answer them. And again, if you're solo carrying and you're trying to make it to eternity, this is when the game really changes. Yes, you can climb your way up to platinum, no problem with someone like a Squirrel Girl, but when you get past those ranks and when the game really starts to change, right around probably high Grandmaster, when you start getting into Celestial, and then the game even changes again in high Celestial, and then it flips again even when you get into Eternity, it's super difficult to get really good, really strong value out of a Squirrel Girl, so that's why she's here. And at the top of the alt feeder, I can't get over the names of these, we have Scarlet Witch. So yeah, you don't really have to aim with her, although that's a little bit of a meme at this point. What Scarlet Witch is great at doing is providing consistency, and as you can see, kind of the theme here, these three heroes in particular, they're really consistent as far as shelling out consistent damage, but that's also a weakness of theirs because of that consistent damage. And I'm sure everyone has seen it, the play style for these particular heroes, you have to play them a very certain way. It's really hard to go on a flanking route with someone like a Punisher. It can be done, absolutely. It's just, you don't generally see that. You don't generally see that with someone like a Squirrel Girl as much. You don't generally see that with a Scarlet Witch player who's able to get their ultimate off when it comes to high elo. And again, you can wipe teams left and right in Diamond and Grandmaster, or even in Celestial and lower Celestial with a Scarlet Witch player. It does change, and this is why these characters are placed where they're at right now. It's the game changes so much when you get to those upper tiers. It gets harder to fly up and take out an Iron Man. They're not going to just sit there and take a bunch of damage from you. You're not going to be able to get 4-person or complete team wipe ultimates every other game. Moving on to solo queue survivalists. So this is the tier where, in my opinion, there's quite a bit of a gap between this tier and the alt feeder tier. And Winter Soldier is going to round out the bottom of this tier here, I believe, for the duelist. And the reason for that, again, in high elo, he only has a 45% win rate, which is still relatively low. It's not that he was directly nerfed into the ground. It's just the way that the meta has been shaping, the way, in order, again, for you, I'm assuming that you're going to be solo queuing or maybe occasionally duo queuing your way up to eternity. You can absolutely do this with this character, and if you're cracked, he might be your S tier hero, but just speaking in general, it's really hard to get value because he kind of plays with the front line, with your tanks, or you'll peel for your backline. In an area that Winter Soldier really shines is when he's able to kind of pull a Black Panther or pull a Magik into your team, and you can all focus fire him down. That's really difficult to do with unorganized play, which is going to be all of ranked, even in Eternity. So yeah, you can slow down divers, you can get all kinds of damage on people. You do have burst damage, which is something some of the previous heroes have lacked, so you do have some of that, and you are able to get shields generated for yourself, which is also helpful because on your way up, even up to eternity, there are going to be times when you should be healed, but you're just not going to get healed. So Winter Soldier's survivability does give him a little bit of a bonus, but he's still relatively soft in the current meta. I'm going to put it this way. Be objective with yourself. What is your win rate with Winter Soldier? And let's say season 2.5, since this particular season right now is still early on. what is your win rate with Winter Soldier? It's probably lower than what you think it is. And for that reason, we're moving on to the next guy here, Star-Lord. He suffers a similar fate. There's something with Star-Lord in particular. He actually lacks that burst damage. Now, he provides consistent damage, and he's fantastic for farming ultimates. And if you are really squirrely with him, you can get ult charge on anyone and everyone, even from getting chip damage from far away, even when you don't think you should be. And this will serve you really well all the way up to probably Celestial. And you can just keep farming ultimates and farming ultimates and farming ultimates. Eventually, teams are going to understand what it is that you're trying to do. Oh, hey, he's farming ult charge. And good players are going to be able to mitigate that. And you will start seeing consistently good Magneto players who are going to bubble the right people at the right time. They're going to be able to shield you off. They're going to be able to boop you away as an invisible woman. They're going to be able to mitigate what you're going to be able to do. And your ultimate isn't going to be able to save your team during team fights all of the time. And that is where he falls down. He's only got a 6% pick rate. And even when he has a 6% pick rate, he has a negative win rate. I think that's also because res comps aren't as strong right now, at least with the current meta. Adam Warlock is hardly getting picked at all. So there's one utility that is wasted on this character, Star-Lord. Okay, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one here just because Phoenix is so new. I thought she was going to be kind of a cross between a Human Torch and a Hela, and she seems to be a little bit soft compared to what I thought she was going to be. Every single hero that has dropped in the game up to this point has been nerfed for the successive patch. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Phoenix, and it also could be the case that we're just too early to tell to figure out like the meta for exactly how this character is supposed to be used. Like a good Mr. Fantastic player can directly answer a Phoenix ultimate, and her ultimate isn't a I win button. Great damage, great chip damage, great at poke damage. If you have good aim, this is going to be a good character to play with. She's a ton of fun. I love her escapability with her dash, and I'm not saying this character is going to be bad to climb with. I'm just saying she's quite literally middle of the road. I think you could do better. Spider-Man. I'm trying to think. It's probably in probably not until Grandmaster. And even in Grandmaster, people are going to be pulled off the map by you. You can play that same card over and over and over again. It's genuinely surprising how much you can get away with that nonsense. And there's a lot going on in this game. There are 12 people on the battlefield at a given time when everyone's up. There's a lot going. There's a lot of voice lines, a lot of ultimates popping, a lot of flashing on the screen and everything. There's a lot going on, and it's relatively easy to just kind of stand over in the corner for an extra couple of seconds, wait until that tank missteps and they're a little closer to the edge of the map than they should have been, and you just pull them right off. Anyway, despite the reworks, despite the fact that he's been overpowered and low elo, underpowered and high elo, if you're good with this character, you can absolutely manhandle games solo, no doubt. And that doesn't really stop until you get into Grandmaster. And even in Grandmaster, when you have those 50-50 matches, if they're just a 50-50 match, we're not talking about, you know what, there's a good chance we're going to lose this. It's harder to do with this character, your solo carry potential. But Spider-Man has almost a 50% win rate in high elo at the moment. So unlike what the name implies, I don't think he's amazing per se, but you could certainly do worse. And one advantage that you do have would be your combos and burst potential. That is massive for climbing. Speaking of burst damage, let's go ahead and talk about the best hero in the entire roster to do that. If you have good aim with Hawkeye, I think he immediately becomes probably in the Elo Express tier, probably at the top there, or maybe even in the really good tier. I mean, what more needs to be said? You can literally shoot strategists out of their ultimates. Yes, it's tricky to do, but again, if you're able to min-max this character, he is able to do that, whereas practically any other hero in the game cannot do that with their primary. That being said, you're still really diveable. Yeah, you can slash him away, but once you start to get to high elo, they're going to understand, okay, he used his slash, he's done. I can dive him again. I can re-engage. Yeah, you have your little double boop jump. Again, they know in high elo, that's it. That's your one bag of tricks right there, all in one. If you have one of those weird games where your team just kind of knows how to play around you, they're kind of playing together weirdly, and it's like a 50-50 match, again, You can shred with this character. You can hard carry games. You can make games that should have been 40-60 against your favor and just crush. You have burst potential, poke potential. Your ultimate is better than people think it is. But one area where you lack, and again, it just comes down to the well-roundedness. How good are you at chipping down Doctor Strange's shield? Okay, what about taking out someone behind an Emma Frost shield? What about your rate of fire? It's, again, really slow, and that hurts you in a lot of areas in this game. There's a lot more than just one-shot combos in this game, and if you miss that headshot on that dashing Psylocke, you're going to have a bad time. Another potentially controversial one in this tier in particular would be Hela. Now hear me out. Hela has one get-out-of-jail-free card with her bird fly away ability. Yes, if you have great aim with this character and you're able to double boot people in the head and take them out, that's fantastic. That doesn't happen in the game that often. And your carrying potential for that does suffer because you only have 10 shots in your clip, if you will. This is not a Flyers meta right now, so that is a tick against Hela. You're incredibly weak against particular divers like Psylocke. You usually lose in that one-on-one if the skill set is the same. And again, we're not talking about you climbing up to gold 2 or platinum 1. We're talking about whenever you start getting into diamond, whenever you start getting into grandmaster, whenever you get into celestial and you break into celestial 2, celestial 1, and you're trying to flip into eternity, they're going to be really, really good players in front of you. And are you going to be able to out duel them consistently? And with this character, you can do that. It's just who is the best in that lineup to be able to do that. An 11% pick rate in high elo, a 48% win rate currently. Hela is strong. I just don't think she's as crazy strong as what you see your favorite streamers talking about, because they're talking about it from a top 500 or even pro level caliber. And we're just talking about, okay, who is going to push me from bronze or gold up to eternity? So if I think you max out your ability with Hela, I still think there are duelists who can do a better job. Okay, Mr. Fantastic. I really like this character. I don't play him myself, but we've all played against a really good Mr. Fantastic player, and they are annoying to deal with. His range is farther than what you think it would be. He can answer certain flyers when he needs to. He's a pop-up tank when he needs to. He can stall the cart, and this isn't talked about enough. And I feel like over the last month or so in this community, people have started to talk about this a little bit more. They're starting to catch on, but nowhere near as much as what they need to if they do want to make it up into those higher tiers. And that's really when you're going to start to climb. So you start noticing that, I would say around Diamond, around Grandmaster, probably Grandmaster 3, 2, somewhere around there. You start noticing certain players, they play certain ways. Really good players like the Captain Americas, the Mr. Fantastics, they usually do a really good job of stalling the cart. They might be the only one on the cart and you're like, oh my goodness, it's this character again. We're not going to be able to kill him. He just ulted or whatever the case. And Mr. Fantastic, how you win the game. How many of us have been in games where you're like, dude, everyone on our team had more kills. We had lower deaths than the enemy team. How did we manage to lose that? Did they just win the very last fight we had and they ended up winning? Maybe, but generally it's because their team actually pushed the cart or they stalled yours, or often it's both because they understood the mechanics of the game, which is, hey, we need to push the cart. And Mr. Fantastic players, you're able to do a masterful job where you can do a little bit of everything. Again, with the pop-up tankness, the bonus HP for yourself, for your team. He's actually really strong. I don't think he's busted. I don't think he's broken. I don't think he's the strongest duelist. I don't think you should abandon all of your other strategies and go to Mr. Fantastic for this. But if you like a little bit of wacky, zany characters, want something a little bit different, he can be insanely good. And he's really consistent and really annoying to deal with. And that can be really good for tilting players, which is effective in every single rank, by the way. Human Torch is going to be in the Elo Express tier here. So he can fly, he can dive, he can get bonus HP. And again, with the flying aspect, that automatically moves you up a tier in and of itself because there are just going to be heroes that aren't able to answer you. He's got nearly a 52% win rate in high elo at the moment. You're able to ward off enemies, so he has a bit of map control as well. And his ultimate is actually pretty strong. You have burst potential, you have poke potential, you have dive potential or escape ability as well. And again, with you flying and you manipulating your hitbox, bit bopping, diving, dodging, throwing wrenches, dodgeball, whatever. He's good, okay? Iron Man, really similar to Human Torch. I don't need to rehash everything. I'm already talking about these characters too long as is. But your ultimate, even up into eternity, is something that people fear. If your ultimate is not answered, that can win you the game. If you get one decent ultimate on the right character at the right time during a match, just one, even during the 2 rounds in total, if you only do 1 total across the 2 rounds, that can be the difference between you ranking up or you not ranking up. You have the ability to utilize tracking mechanics for aiming. If you have something like that, that's really powerful. You have endless poke potential, and on your way up, you can literally just farm your ultimate by just holding down your primary, even from super far away, and you getting hardly any value at all. Trust me, with you putting consistent chip damage on the back line, it is something that is in the back of their mind, tying up precious resources that they're going to have to figure out as they're, do I heal the tanks? Do I throw the bubble down on me to try to heal? Oh my goodness, now we're getting dove. It's not as effective as you start to climb up in higher ranks, of course, but again, when you start to farm your ultimate, that is your ticket to success. And yes, it takes a little bit longer to farm your ultimate, but it's still not enough to knock this character down any further than where he is. Iron Man is an incredibly strong pick. Namor got insane buffs for this season, so he's almost a hit scan character, especially when they're mid to close range at this point. It's ridiculous. And the fact that you never have to reload, you can just hold your primary down. This is insane. You can do like a pop-up shop flank on a particular character or the enemy team whenever you want, and with your squids you can use them to body block for yourself. Whenever you throw up your squids, kind of a bonus tip here would be, it's literally like having an additional DPS for the metal ranks. So if you want an easy breezy character to get out of the metal ranks, Namor is one of the better ones for that, just because of his kit of you just going boop boop with your 2 squids, and then mentally you don't even have to think about that anymore, and you will get value from that. That's insane. His different voice lines are a little creepy, so that's always fun. This one might be surprising to people, would be Iron Fist. Yeah, he's a low elo terror. We don't need to talk about that. He's been a low elo terror. I don't know if he's ever not been. Iron Fist has a 7% pick rate. Not like 1 or 2%. We're talking 7%. That's a decent pick rate because the duelist category is the biggest category to choose from. So pick rates are going to be a little lower across the board for duelists just in general, just because there are more to choose from. So what I'm trying to say is Iron Fist pick rate is actually a decent pick rate, and he has the 4th highest win rate in high elo at the moment because he's a terror. He's a menace. He can legitimately jump into 1v6 situations and jump out. You can literally jump into a 1v6. That is crazy. You're a duelist. You have different combos that you can manipulate. You can practically fly. Even in Celestial, people don't know to not shoot at you when you start blocking and get bonus HP. What you do lack is obviously range though, and you don't have insane just burst potential in the moment, like a boom, just like that. It needs to be a bit of a combo, or like with your ultimate or something like that, which can be strong, but that's why he's in this tier and not in the really good tier. Someone who's a step above, in my opinion, would be someone like a Psylocke with your dash ability, so you're able to engage whenever you want, you can disengage whenever you want, you can flank with this character, you can take out flyers, you can do poke damage. And with the right combinations, you can do enough burst damage to help your team out. Your ultimate depends on the moment, depends on the fight, whatever your ultimate's going to be, whatever it's going to be. And what I mean by that is I wouldn't let a middle of the road ultimate deter me from using a character if they're really good, just because if you can get insane value from a particular character, like a Psylocke in this case, he still deserves this particular position. Okay, so Wolverine is banned all the time. He has a 55% ban rate right now, and that does play a little bit into your climb up to eternity. If you're not going to be able to play this character more than half of your games, 1, that's a little bit saddening. 2, it's going to be harder to get legitimate practice in with this character. And I do see a day, some point, when he's not going to be banned every other match, but that's not today. You can absolutely control lobbies. I remember one game in particular, there was an enemy Wolverine, and he just took over the lobby. He took our Iron Man out of... Our Iron Man was like 29-2. Nobody was answering him, but their Wolverine started jumping up onto ledges and taking out our Iron Man and swooping him and kidnapping him back into the enemy team. What a ridiculous character design. Your ultimate is strong, you can answer tanks, and if there's a really good tank, like a really good Magneto, who you can see is kind of carrying their team, bubbling at the right time and all of that, you can still kidnap him whenever his bubble is down. That's huge. And you take him out of the picture. You take a Vanguard out of the picture. A team generally crumbles. The higher you start to get in elo, the strategists start freaking out because they don't have that front line at that point. You throw off someone's entire game. Whenever you lose a Vanguard, everybody kind of starts to scatter like roaches. And this doesn't change regardless of what rank you're in. However, you're not ranged. You can't even play every other game with this character. If an enemy has an invisible woman, which you will start seeing when you start to get, again, into those higher tiers, they're going to be able to consistently shut you down. Magneto's going to bubble at the right times. Invisible Woman's going to be able to pull you back into the fold, and you're not going to be able to answer anything. You will have to swap. It doesn't happen all the time. This guy is almost at the very tippy top of the Elo Express tier. I would not be upset if someone put him in the really good tier. And just like that, just barely above him would be Black Panther for very similar reasons. Again, you can control entire lobbies. You can strike fear into the hearts of strategists and even duelists that are not prepared. But any Black Panther player can tell you when they start getting into probably Platinum, Diamond, Grandmaster, somewhere around there, depends on the time of the season, your team comp, the enemy's team comp, how they go about answering you as a Black Panther character, they can shut you down. Now, me as a player, I generally play Vanguard. Do I want to roll the dice and say, well, you know, I hope the enemy team doesn't have a Black Panther, and I hope that our strategists are just really good at answering him? I don't bother rolling the dice anymore because I want to pull my hair out whenever I see that we have strategists who cannot answer or handle a Black Panther, and we don't have duelists who understand what peeling means. But again, that being said, this particular hero can be shut down, even accidentally by teams who aren't trying to shut him down. That's why he's in this tier. Storm. You don't have to have good aim with this character. You can literally just live. Just live. Literally stay behind your Magneto the entire game. Just live, and your team enjoys the bonus. Your team enjoys that ridiculous 10% consistent damage bonus, which is why Storm is the number 2 duelist in the entire game in high elo when it comes to win rate. You literally just have to exist, and your team benefits from your glory, your power up. I think she's boring to play. She's a little bit slow. I don't like that she's not hit scan, but she's practically a flying Hela with a permanent buff to your team. I've recommended Storm to several of my friends to climb with, and who else but Magik? A 13% pick rate, which is high for duelists, and in high elo, over a 56% win rate. She's the number 1 duelist in the game. Now, something I do want to highlight would be for these heroes here, I do not have even most of these characters based off of only their win rates and pick rates, but I do like highlighting them and letting you know, hey, this is in combination with talking to high level players myself, playing games myself, and then also looking at statistics just to get a little bit of an objective feel, like at broad, what these characters are capable of. And a good Magik player is really hard to deal with. You're really tanky, you have burst potential, you can farm your ultimate on tanks and retreat back to your team, you have iframes, you can occasionally answer aerial opponents. A con that I would say with this character is you have to be really stinking good with this character to get value with her. And I would say in Celestial 3, maybe Celestial 2 at that point, not only do you have to be really stinking good with her, you have to be incredibly patient, lurking in the shadows, striking at the right times when your team engages, and that's an entire dance itself. We could do an hour-long video and it still wouldn't capture everything that you would need to learn for this particular character, and any Magik mains know that. What a fun character to play, but my goodness, does she take quite a bit of work to master. If you want something a little bit easier, Storm would be the one to pick in this tier. Okay, strategist, rounding up the very bottom here would be Adam Warlock. And then something I want to say before we move on here would be, I don't think strategists in general are going to be the best to climb with, to solo carry climb with. It's really difficult to, and the reason being, and I've said this before, is you can't polish a turd. Let's exaggerate, and let's say it's 49-51 odds to win the game. Not in your favor, it's in the enemy team's favor. If you shine up your turd of a team that's not good, it doesn't matter. The enemy team is better than you. Why do you keep healing your Magneto, who isn't really good? That's a waste of your abilities. Your ability to solo carry the game. Now, there are other ways where you can step forward, deal more damage than what other strategists normally would and stuff. That really stops having effect when you get into those higher elo lobbies. And so in my opinion, and it looks like that of a lot of other people in high elo, it's harder to solo carry with a strategist. Not saying it's not impossible or anything like that. It's just really difficult to consistently be able to do that, unlike somebody like a duelist where you can just snap your fingers with some of these characters and just delete a character. That really helps your team out at that point at 6v5 because of your character's kit, the way that you're able to do that. You're just not able to do that with the design of the characters and strategists. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great if you like to play them, like to main them and everything. Adam Warlock, you don't do enough damage outright, and this would be past like platinum or diamond at this point. Yes, again, you can climb with this character to eternity, but when you factor in all of the things we mentioned before, so like res comp, for example, Star-Lord isn't as strong as what he could be for this particular season, like we mentioned. So even if you're buffing a Star-Lord, you're, in my opinion, buffing a mid-tier character at this point. So again, it's just an entire power-up or benefit that's effectively wasted on a character that's already incredibly weak. You're incredibly diveable. People understand, decent divers, even in Platinum, know whenever you use your Soul Bond, whenever that's up, they know it's going to take 18 light years before you get it back. Wait, are light years a long time? Are light years a long time? Light years are a measure of distance. That was calculated. It takes light years. It takes so long, it doesn't even take time. It transcends time. Jeff the Landshark, it's going to depend on whatever your team comp is. If you get value with this character, usually lining up your shots going through your team into the enemy team is what's going to be most advantageous for you. And whenever you get to higher elo, people aren't going to be lining up like bowling pins at that point. You're not DPS flanking Jeff like you used to be. You are a little bit more diveable. People understand, the game's been out for a while now. People understand your tricks when it comes to your ultimate, and it's not a healing ultimate, which isn't the end of the world, but you better get value on your ultimate. Otherwise, again, with almost any other strategist in the game, most of them, you not being able to heal your team, even if you accidentally place your ultimate as like an invisible woman, you're probably going to give your team value. But as Jeffy boy, you're not guaranteed to give your team value. You just fall into that category where you're mostly just consistent damage for the enemy team that, again, when you get into higher elo, they're just going to be healing that up. I am not second guessing this at all. We're going to put Invisible Woman in this tier as well. Now, her utility is actually really strong, and that alone would bump her up another tier or two, even because of the characters that you're able to shut down in this game. This video would be an hour long just talking about all the different ways that you could utilize just her push-pull ability. People can boop you or your teammates out of your ultimate. You're not invincible during it, and it only lasts 8 seconds compared to some other characters in this game who have super long healing ultimates. You don't have limitless range with your healing or dealing damage. Yes, whenever people line up for you, and depending on the map, you can be incredibly strong with close-knit areas. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about consistently and practically rising to the challenge of carrying your teammates through those high elo lobbies, because again, this isn't like a how to get through silver challenge here. We're trying to climb our way up to eternity. And with that being said, I think Ultron will give you a little bit more consistency than someone like an Invisible Woman. And again, it's the same reason that we talked about before. You fly. There's gonna be value baked in there. Yes, even in high elo lobbies, you go unanswered more than you should. You're gonna do more damage. You have incredible range with this character. Your ultimate can heal and do damage, which is impactful, and that's stronger than what you think it would be, because depending on that particular precious moment in this game, maybe you do need something like a Jeff ult in that I need to deal damage, or I need to crowd control this very moment. That's something that Ultron could do. Something that Jeff would not be able to do would be, I really need to heal multiple teammates right now that aren't lined up for me. What do I do? Well, in this case, keeping to our swimming references here, Jeff is up the crick, but you can heal with Ultron too in his ultimate. Do you see where this is going? Next up would be Cloak and Dagger, and they're going to be at the bottom of this solo queue survivalist tier here. Now, with your Terror Cape, you can answer the Iron Man ultimates, the Thor ultimates. You can save your team from all kinds of pending doom. Okay, so you answered their ultimates, but now what are you doing to carry your team? Again, it comes back to the polishing the turd aspect. Cloak and Dagger does it great. You can deal some damage when you need to do damage. You can go ahead and pump out heals like nobody's business, not even look at them, be talking to your wife in the background who's playing patty cake with your baby, and still be healing half of your team. And that's great. However, it does come at a cost. That ease of use there. I don't think we need to spend more time on this here. This might surprise people. I'm going to put Luna tier in just the mid tier here. And the reason for that, and we broke this down before, is mechanically, he's actually really tricky to use. You have to have good aim with this character, number one. So that's going to put out more than half of the player base alone. That's not taking a shot at anybody or anything. It's just you have to aim really well with this character. Mechanically, you have to work much harder with this character. So that's one aspect. And even if you have decent aim, there's going to be times when you're just going to simply miss. Whereas if you were on a Cloak and Dagger, if you were on Dagger in particular, you wouldn't have had that issue more than likely. Have over 95% accuracy without trying. So that's one aspect. Another aspect would be your snowflake ability. People don't understand that you're able to put that snowflake on anyone in a particular given moment and give them that healing bonus, which gives your ally a 35% bonus to healing when you use it. So if your Doctor Strange is down to probably like 100 HP or so, you put your snowflake ability on him and continue healing him, and go ahead and use your clap ability to pierce through him and your opponents at that point, getting all kinds of value. She's just a trickier hero to play in that particular scenario. And even on your way up to eternity, people just don't play this character right. Yes, you have a really long lasting ultimate, and you get bonus overshield while you use it, and you can damage buff your teammates and everything, but your ultimate only lasts for so long. What are you doing during the rest of your game? You have tremendous ability to be able to heal your teammates up, but again, you can't always polish a turd. It's great. You can even answer Iron Man yourself a lot of games, but again, when it comes to really good players, if you're playing against really good Iron Man players, which you will when it comes to Celestial, you're not going to be able to take them out as a Luna Snow. They're not going to sit there. They're not going to peek in the same place twice. They're going to peek on the other side. They're going to lower themselves wherever. They're going to start using their unibeam on you or whatever the case. They're going to ult the rest of your team. There are just too many other things that you're going to have to answer. There's a Black Panther diving you for the 4th time in a row who's being really sneaky. It gets really complex really quick when you start to get up to that higher elo tier. And with this particular character, they don't have 55% win rates with Luna Snow. Now, that's also because people also fill during games and they pick a Luna Snow, so the win rate's going to drop because of that, because she has a higher pick rate. But my reasoning still stands with this character. Mechanically, it's going to be a little harder to use Luna Snow. I think she stays in this tier. Mantis. So we already talked about that res comp is not as strong this game. Nobody is picking Adam Warlock this season. He's got a 2% pick rate. So again, you just don't have your res ability with Mantis. So again, there's another ability that's totally wasted for this character. Yeah, you can move a little bit quicker. You can flank with this character. You can damage buff yourself. You can damage buff your teammates. That is amazing. And you'll actually see Mantis has a 54% win rate. Wow, that's incredible. But she has a 4% pick rate, meaning he is picked specifically for res comps or for very specific, hyper-specific scenarios. That's an incredibly low pick rate even for a strategist in this case. It's for very specific scenarios, which is artificially boosting that win rate. So she's not as strong as what the win rate would outright suggest, which is why you can't always rely on all of these numbers, which is why you have to take pick rates into account and understand what team compositions they are. And again, when you start to get to that higher elo, it's going to be really hard to climb with this character. And she does not have hit scan. It's just, she's got a great answer utility that she can use on sleeping opponents, which is great for dive characters or to take tanks out of the game without realizing it. But it's really hard to carry with this character because you're not going to be able to heal your team up like a Luna Snow or an Invisible Woman could, and you have to be constantly shelling out damage, which again, depending on how your team is playing, and my goodness, even through Celestial on your way up to Eternity, your teammates will need just a ton of heals from you sometimes because of their inevitable mistakes, which happens to everybody, just seems to happen to my teams a lot. And that's where she really falls apart, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Mantis should heal like everybody else. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the way that this character is designed is just, it's really tricky to carry with this current meta. And another one, I bet you guys were thinking I was going to put Loki in the really good tier, and I can make an argument for that. Here's why I have him in this tier. Because Rocket is in this tier. And I've got to read these stats off to you. And again, stats aren't end all be all, but I have to break this down. Rocket is sitting just below a whopping 54% win rate with over a 34% pick rate. He's picked in over a third of games and still has a tremendous win rate right now. You can just turn off half of your brain, hold down heal with this character, have your res beacon up, and it works, and it will get you out of Celestial. It will get you out of Celestial if you only heal with this character and throw your res beacon down when it requires it. You have insanely high DPS. I love taking out Doctor Strange's shields because they're usually not aware of how much damage you do, and they usually don't expect Rocket players to really be all that good, which I don't blame them all that much for. But when you use your primary and you just shred a Doctor Strange shield, there goes half of his effective HP without him really even realizing it. So there are little nuances like that with this character, and even though his dashes did get nerfed, your ability to climb on the walls, your survivability in general, and for your team, you're effectively getting a 7th member for your team with that res beacon. That can't be overstated. So again, a 54% win rate, a 34% pick rate with this character, whereas I think it's just clearly a tier below when it comes to the statistics here for Loki, who has a 51.5% win rate with a 24% pick rate. So the lower the pick rate, the potential for the win rate to be higher because they're used for more specific scenarios, but that's not the case here. So not only does Loki have an advantage as far as the pick rate is concerned, but he also has a lower win rate, meaning someone like a Rocket will be more advantageous for you to be able to climb up to the higher ranks. Now, as far as super duper high elo goes, as far as like an overall character design, Loki is incredibly strong. We could put him in this tier. You can slice and dice this and discuss this however you want to, but this is my justification for these characters. I think pros overlook Rocket too much. He statistically wins just so much. I try banning Rockets whenever I see we have 2 decent healers on our team. And when I say decent, I mean we just have 2 healers on our team in unorganized ranked play. And I'm telling you right now, my win rates, I forget what it is because I put it in an Excel sheet because I'm a nerd. I'm not going to look that up at the moment. My Excel rate, or my win rates, have improved by banning Rockets in my game. That's something to consider. It might come down to the fact that I play Vanguard more often too, and that might play into it as well. I don't know exactly. Think about it this way for a second. That's why I'm throwing out my 2 cents here. I'm not saying I'm all knowing or anything like that. Everybody's tier list is going to be different. That's a beautiful thing, but just keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and hop over to Vanguards. Saving the best for last, baby. Okay, in the lowest tier for Vanguards here, that's right. Okay, let me explain Peni here. I understand she has a high win rate, and this character can take over games, and you can carry your way to eternity with this character. However, 5% pick rate, pretty stinking low. 59% win rate, really high, meaning she's used for certain maps, certain applications, certain team comps, people that know specifically how to play her in specific ways. And again, it's not going to work against every team comp. I would not feel comfortable carrying myself and my team to eternity. I don't think you're going to be able to do that consistently. Now, there are always outlier players and characters and stuff like that, and you're going to see that all over your YouTube feed now that I said that. But something to consider up to eternity. This is something that maybe people who haven't been able to break into, let's say, I don't know, platinum, diamond, or something like that you may not be aware of. Even when you get into those tiers that are a little bit higher up, like the diamonds, the grandmasters, people still don't play Vanguard all the time. Believe it or not, you'll still literally have games where you'll have 4 duelists insta-log, and they're not switching. You still have games like that in high elo. It does happen, and what's really difficult with someone like a Peni, in this case, your team says, oh, okay, we have a Vanguard now. And that will absolutely mess up your team's comp because of that. And also, when you pick someone like a Peni, you are automatically forcing your other Vanguard, if hopefully you get another Vanguard, which you might not even, because your team says, oh, we at least have a Vanguard now, which you don't really function that way. But then your other teammates at this point, you might have duelists who says, oh, well, I kind of know how to play Thor. That's great. Neither of you guys have staying power on the point. So that really hurts your ability to climb. So that's why she's down here. There's a lot of nuance around this. You could argue this a ton of different ways. Yes, you're fantastic at answering dives. That's not the only play style on this. And again, when you start to get to higher elos, people are going to start shooting out your nest a little bit quicker than that of bronze. It isn't going to be as consistent as what you think it should be in matches like even Grandmaster. It's a hyper-specific character. You can climb with them. It would just be really difficult to consistently do that. And we're also going to put the Thing down here as well for a similar reason, who's a little bit higher up than that of Peni. And I want to give you some stats on the Thing right now, just because he was buffed for this season. He can take out some flyers, which again, there aren't as many flyers right now with the current meta. He's got a 49% win rate at the moment, which is not like bad or anything. It's just, it's not shockingly good or anything of the matter too. He has a 20% pick rate, which you would think, oh my goodness, well, it's because he has such a high pick rate. Well, Doctor Strange has a higher pick rate. Magneto has a higher pick rate. So Venom, he even has an 8% pick rate, and Emma Frost has a higher pick rate than the Thing does right now. Again, you don't have staying power like other Vanguards. You have your get out of jail free card with your 200 bonus HP whenever you run back to your team or you run into the enemy team and then back to yours, and then you can shield your teammates as well. All of that's great. You could even say it's fantastic. But whenever you play a Vanguard, it is advantageous to play a Vanguard that has staying power on the point. Again, going back to one of our earlier points when we were talking about Mr. Fantastic, at the end of the day, you have to play the objective. Whether it's you're capturing the point in the middle or you're moving the cart, you have to play a Vanguard that does really well around those settings. Now, I'm not saying in order to climb, Magneto's just always going to be better than the Thing. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is the same point with Peni. Even when you start to get to some higher Elo lobbies, you're going to get shot in the face and you're going to get burnt down. There's nothing you can do to throw up a shield. You can't mitigate that damage coming in. So for that reason alone, for really being able to control the point and being able to capture that point, that very first point, rather than taking 2 steps back and being off the point and then the enemy team captures it for practically free, you could force yourself forward that extra 2 little baby steps at the very beginning. When the enemy team's just about to fully capture it, you step forward as Magneto and you throw your shield up and you say, you guys aren't getting this yet. I'm going to save our team a few extra seconds of you not getting charge. Thor goes into the solo queue survivalists here. Yes, Thor is getting close to a 51% win rate with nearly an 11% pick rate. And again, he suffers the same fate like the previous 2 tanks. He doesn't have staying power like some of these other Vanguards. You can deal damage, you can cancel your awakening when you want, you can boot people off the point into your team wherever you want, you can be a menace peeling for your backline. You have a lot of versatility. Thor is really good for that. He can deal out consistent damage. You're actually decent at range. You can do a ton of damage in the face, booping people. He is great for that. But again, you don't have staying power. You don't have true diving power either. And then next we're going to go ahead and jump onto this bad boy here, Venom. Your dive potential, you got stronger this season with your team up ability. Well, not really your team up ability, although that does help with Hela and that. But your cellular corrosion, which is your grabbing ability onto enemies, has a 25% slow effect this season compared to 15% the previous season, which is a decent buff. You have a little bit more bursty potential than what people think because you can headshot opponents. So you can latch onto enemies, you can headshot a Luna Snow, melee weave in there, which is a nice little wombo combo on them. Your ultimate gives you incredible staying power on the point, and that's incredibly important whenever you're trying to stay and delay the cart being pushed by the enemy team, or you want to stay and wait until your team portals back at the last second. It's overtime and you need to stay and you need to stay alive, and you have your ultimate and you can just clasp on the enemy team with your ult and get a billion bonus HP. That's incredibly valuable, but that is your staying potential there. You don't have shields like that of a Doctor Strange or a Magneto. And again, that's incredibly important with this particular role. Okay, into Elo Express tier, we're going to throw Groot here. You can wall enemies off from getting healed, and that is going to serve you so well all the way to eternity. People will not be able to answer that as quick as they should. Your team will get kills, and even you yourself, even if you can't count on your team for anything, which sometimes some games play out that way, right? You can clutch kills for yourself and thereby your team also, even though they didn't do anything to help, by just placing walls up at the right time, getting your ultimate off at the right time again, comboing it with the Moon Knight on your team. Even if your Moon Knight doesn't know to play with you or anything, even if someone else like a Namor throws their ultimate up, or they look like they're moving forward and they're playing really aggressive, and you're like, I think they're gonna ult. I know that they have their ultimate. You can go ahead and combo that with your group everybody up. It just makes a really nice ult sandwich. Although Groot was a little softer than what he was previously. Wolverines can get a ton of value on you. Emma Frost can charge their primary on your walls. That's a big ouch. You are incredibly slow. He's got a 49% win rate in high elo at the moment, which again, that is good for a Vanguard. I'm not bashing that by any means. There are a couple of Vanguards who are better. One of them being Doctor Strange. The portals alone would probably put him in this tier. Like, let's say he was like, I don't know, like Black Widow. Like give him Black Widow's kit, but he has portals. Doesn't that automatically put him into maybe like the alt feeder tier or like the solo queue survivalist tier? Like literally same exact kit as Black Widow, but he's got the portals. You know what I mean? Like that's just, it's so valuable, right? It's used every single game, even when somebody's not a Doctor Strange, to get back to point, right? So I don't know. It makes this character unique. Your E ability alone. So not only can you shield, you have staying power on the particular point, which we've already discussed now. We've learned like, hey, that is worthwhile to carry myself and my team to eternity. So you have staying potential. You have effectively like around 1,000 HP because of that and the way that you shield mitigate, and you have burst potential with your E on computer. You have decent range. You can shut down Hela ultimates and any rank. You yourself have a strong ultimate. Doctor Strange is incredibly strong. I know after his final, like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, Doctor Strange, the first time people started putting Doctor Strange in like B or like C tier, I feel like people are too hesitant to put him into like S tier now or an equivalent of that. I could make a case where you could put him here. I am not going to, because again, I think there are a few other tanks, as you can see, that are stronger than him, but I could justify that decision. Okay, and this is my main, so I'm a little bit biased here. Again, I don't want to talk about these heroes too much because we already know what Emma Frost can do. Her diamond form, so you can be immune to like the Jeff ultimates. You can be immune to all sorts of CC, and you can grab enemies. You can grab Doctor Stranges out of their ultimates. You can grab Scarlet Witches out of their ultimates. If an Iron Man makes the mistake of peering around a corner within you and you can jump and then dash, grab him out of his ultimate, you can do that as well. I've done that multiple times with her. And even if you can't, you can turn around really quick or position yourself so you can use your diamond shield, your, what is it called? Chrono shield or something? Not Chrono shield. Your Mind's Aegis shield, which even though it only has 400 HP, it gives you stopping power and staying power on the point for shield mitigation, damage mitigation overall, but you can block ultimates with it. You can block Magneto ultimates with it, which I've done time and again. I've saved a Luna Snow, which in overtime, which literally won us the game because our Luna was still up with me at that point. And I blocked Iron Man ultimates with it before because they don't expect you to put your shield right up in their face. Same thing with Hela ultimates. You can put your shield up with them and mitigate that. And you might be thinking like, oh my goodness, you're naming all this stuff. Why isn't she stronger? You're pretty slow. And then once you use your diamond form, a good Jeff will ult then. And then you're toast. You don't have any way to get out of that. And just because Jeff can answer you alone, I'm kidding. She's got exactly a 50% win rate in high elo and a 28% pick rate. So it is higher on the pick rate side. It is flat at 50%, which is usually going to happen when that pick rate starts to go up. But I don't think she has the same versatility as that of someone like a Magneto, for example. Yes, you can peel for your team or an Emma Frost. Yes, when you charge up your primary, you are a force to be reckoned with, but your range is going to be limited. So you're effectively useless. Again, when you start getting into high elo against any flyers who are decent, you're useless for them. And your ultimate is definitely mid tier. Captain America, baby. His staying power on the point is so annoying when he's on the enemy team. So not only that, he's incredibly divey. So yes, we already talked about how survivable he is. He does have surprisingly good staying power on the point in a traditional-ish sense, although that's not how you play this character all the time. But my goodness, does it feel like it's just a metallic pillow that you're throwing at people and punching people with. I do not like that. I like knowing when I punch someone, I'm doing some damage. That being said, Cap's got a 54% win rate and he's used in over 10% of matches as well. He's incredibly versatile. You can put him in any composition. He can peel for your strategists. He can dive on the enemy team. He has good staying power, but he's not quite in that uppity tier because when he does peel for your strategist in this case, he doesn't do enough damage to get out of the game right now. Now, if your strategists are worth their salt and they're doing a decent job of mitigating, let's say, a Black Panther, their damage in combination with what you're doing can easily answer and save someone off in the meantime. But I am here to tell you, man, that Hulk can do it better. So he can already make a really strong standalone Namor even stronger, and all the way up until probably Celestial, you just get ridiculous value out of having the Gamma Squid or whatever the power-up squid for that particular season is with this particular hero. It really is like having a 7th person on your team until the enemy team answers it, which is almost always just too late. You can peel for your backline, you can dive the enemy backline, you can bubble people at the right time and save yourself from ultimates, you can body block ultimates, you can jump into Iron Man ultimates, you do insane damage, your ultimate is stronger than people think, you can juggle mechanic your way all the way to eternity with this character. There is a high skill ceiling with this. I feel like almost everybody knows that at this point with this particular character. He is really hard to use the correct way, but my goodness, is he a lot of fun to play when you actually pull off some decent plays with this character. And wow, you have a wide range of being able to do stuff like that. And then there's the big bad boy Magneto. You can bubble your Cloak and Dagger so they don't get fried out of their ultimate. You can save anyone, any teammate who needs just a couple extra seconds of survivability in order to get healed back up, which saves a death on your team, which again is effectively a 7th teammate on your team, which on repeating cooldown with your bubble. It's an amazing ability. It's talked about all the time, and I still feel like it's not talked about enough. Your ultimate can end games alone. If you consistently answer, again, just because they're picked over half of their games, I keep bringing up Cloak and Dagger because you're always going to see them. If you can boop them out of their ultimate, that is massive for your team. And if you think about that, you used an ultimate, and then the enemy team used one of their presumably 2 strategist ultimates. Not only did you cancel one of their strategist ultimates with yours, so they don't get that healing benefit, but you also killed a strategist, which now they're only down to 1 strategist. That play alone not only will potentially, assuming that it's a 6v6 in the moment, not only is it going to be a 6v5, but it's also a 6v5 and they're down a healer. Like, that is the one that they're down with. It is such an extreme advantage. Heavy carrying potential. I know some big YouTubers, content creators and everything, and that's fine. They have their own opinions and everything too, but it can't be overstated how insanely important it is to be able to kill strategists out of their ultimates, prevent them from being able to do their ultimates, or something right around there. Magneto is one of the best in the game. He's the most consistent to do that, and it's pretty easy. You just charge up your ultimate. You can answer a Punisher ultimate really quick, cancel it out. You can cancel out a Star-Lord ultimate by holding up your giant popsicle stick, your giant lollipop, and then you can throw that sucker on people's heads and knock them right out. All right, let me know, what heroes did I get wrong? Who are you going to be using to climb with? If you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe and watch my most recent video where we break down how to actually be consistent. Stay frosty, queens.